Follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Oh, I feel good. I knew that I would now. I feel good. I knew that I would now. So good, so good. I got to eat. I feel nice. Sugar and spice. I feel nice. Like sugar and spice. So nice, since I got you.
Tavis Smiley, pleased to have you with us in this third and final hour of today's program as we celebrate Juneteenth and as we continue our celebration of June as Black Music Month. And our featured artist of the day is James Brown. We've been playing the best of the Godfather of Soul all 3 hours of today's program, so a few more tracks we'll get in as we weave through this hour in conversation with our guest, who I want to introduce right now. He's Pulitzer Prize-winning podcaster and writer Johannes LaCour, and we're going to talk in this hour about how he turned his life around in and after prison, and we'll talk about his efforts to use media these days to tell our stories and to seek justice for others. Johannes, good to have you on this program, sir. How are you today?
Oh, I'm fabulous, man. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
It's an honor to have you on this program and have the opportunity to hear more of your story and the work that you are doing these days to help others as well. Hard to know where to start because there is so much to your backstory. But since I've already teed it up in this regard about the way you turned your life around in prison and after prison, tell me about what landed you there in the first place, and we'll start from there and move on.
Right. So I'm from Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up kind of always a creative and entrepreneurial spirit. Raked leaves, shoveled snow, walked dogs. Did whatever I could try to do to kind of get an extra buck in my pocket. Also was very artistic. Had a theater company with a brother of mine. We produced plays, and so and I also I wound up discovering what's now legal marijuana as a teenager, and so I started selling it, and it was kind of a business that I kind of stumbled upon. I would go buy, we called it reefer. I would go buy reefer, and guys from my neighborhood would be like, well, when you go, I would go to the projects to buy it, and they, well, you go grab some, grab me some. Everybody didn't want to make that trip, and so I looked up, and people would be like, well, grab me a little bit more. You know what? If you make another trip to grab some from me, I'll buy yours. And I looked up, and it kind of naturally, organically, no pun intended, became a business.
Mm-hmm.
And that business later, people often talk about marijuana being a gateway drug, and I would say that to whatever degree that it's ever been a gateway drug, it's been probably more so for underground suppliers. Because now you're in the underworld, and now you're kind of familiar and closer to everybody else who sells all of the other things that were outlawed. And so eventually I got into selling bigger, harder drugs, and I wound up in 2008 was indicted for a federal heroin trafficking conspiracy, and I got sentenced to 10 years for it.
Yeah. When did you take stock of how you'd gotten pulled into this, sort of, to use your phrase, organically. When did you take stock of how you're being pulled into this and the fact that this business was growing and burgeoning, but it landed you someplace you didn't want to be? What I'm getting at is it sounds to me like you never processed. It was a business you got pulled into, but it sounds like you never really processed the consequences potentially of what you were doing, or maybe I'm missing the point.
Well, yeah, I won't say, you know, yeah, I won't say I didn't know the consequences of what I was getting into.
Right.
I think like a lot of young men who get into illegal activity, illegal trades, I think that an arrogance develops. I think that, you know, when you go a certain amount of time without being caught,
right,
I think that the idea that you won't get caught grows. So I will say that, you know, much earlier in life, I had actually told myself that I would never sell harder drugs, because I told myself I didn't want to sell something that I wouldn't consume. So I kind of broke one of my own kind of codes, if you will. And I, you know, I kind of had my thought was that, you know, but the profits were so large, and I got I was mesmerized by the money, if you will, and I lost control. I lost control because I did kind of cross one of my own lines, and so yeah, I actually did understand what I was getting into. I just was taking the huge and actually, you know, horrible gamble that it wouldn't happen to me.
Yeah.
And it did.
Nope, it always does. When we come forward, I want to ask Johans a question that I've never asked, I think, of another guest, at least not in this way. He is open, he is transparent, and I know he will take the question in the spirit that I'm offering it and give me a frank answer. But when you hear Johans say that he crossed his own line, he said he would never sell anything that he would not consume. He ain't the first person I've talked to who crossed that line. Everybody says that I would never sell something that I'm not going to consume. I want to talk about what it meant crossing that line, number one. But then beyond that, and again, no naivete in asking this, and I'm not putting up on Johans in any way. I've often wondered when persons do this, whether they ever consider the harm that they're causing other people. I understand getting seduced by the money and all the profit, but I wonder if persons ever consider the harm, the death, the destruction that they are causing other people as they're making all this money. So we ostensibly love our people, we love our family, we love our community, and yet when we're doing these, we're engaged in this kind of behavior, we're not just making money for ourselves, we're causing harm, we're causing damage, we're causing death and destruction. And I wonder how that impacts or affects or is processed in the psyche of those who engage in that kind of behavior. Johans LaCour is our guest. Obviously, he is not talking to us from a prison cell, so he turned his life around in prison and after prison. We'll get to that part as well when we push forward in this hour with Johans LaCour on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Not feeling yourself lately? Have your weight loss dreams turned into weight gain nightmares? Ouch. If you've been chasing 20 pounds for 20 years? If so, it's time to try D-Herbs. D-Herbs is a full-body cleanse. It's a natural cleansing regimen, in fact, that can help you lose 20 pounds in just 20 days. The full-body cleanse will also boost your immune system and improve your digestion. Summer is here, so now is as good a time as any to stop chasing those 20 pounds and propel yourself into a healthier lifestyle. To reboot your system and lose weight, go to dherbs.com and order your full-body cleanse or call 866-434-3727. If you mention Tavis at checkout, they will give you a discount on your order. dherbs.com. Experience healing.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
What does it take to take on Alzheimer's? Awareness that nearly 2/3 of those diagnosed are women, including Black women. Dedication to lowering your risk by eating healthy and monitoring blood pressure. And confidence to talk to your healthcare provider about screening and early detection. You have what it takes to take on Alzheimer's. Learn about signs and screening at takeonalz.com. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA reminds you that when we fight, we win, and we don't black down. LA Community Action Network, or LA CAN, was formed in 1999 when 25 residents of downtown LA came together and acknowledged the problems that existed in their community and made a commitment to do something about those problems, to stand together, organize, and become a force in the community that demands change. Civil rights and preventing the criminalization of poverty are their core projects. In addition, they take on women's rights, the human right to housing, and healthy food access. LA CAN also has projects focused on economic development, civic participation, voter engagement, and community media. While downtown LA remains their home base, with a particular emphasis on the Skid Row community, in 2007, they expanded their housing and healthy food access work into South Central Los Angeles. LA CAN believes that power for low-income people and people of color is achieved through a large, active, and well-informed member base that utilizes a multitude of methods to advance their messages and goals. If you'd like to join the Los Angeles Community Action Network and organize people to fight back against oppression, please visit cangress.org. That's cangress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
So you just used bug spray in your home. Now what? Well, between the waiting and waiting for things to dry up and keeping your family away from the mess, it hits you. You could have used Zevo. Unlike other bug sprays that stick around, Zevo goes from kill to clean in seconds. Plus, it's safe for use around people and pets when used as directed. Zevo, people-friendly, bug-deadly.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Americans, lady Americans, this is James Brown. I want to talk to you about one of our most deadly killers in the country today. I had a dream the other night, and I was sitting in my living room. I was doze off to sleep, so I started dreaming. I dreamed I walked in a place and I saw a real strange, weird object standing up talking to the people. And I found out it was heroin, that deadly drug that go in your vein. He said, I came to this country without a passport. Ever since then, I've been hunted and sought. My little white grains are nothing but waste, soft and deadly and bitter to taste. But I'm a world of power, and all know it's true. Use me once, and you'll know it too.
That's James Brown.
I can make a mere schoolboy
And
forget his books.
he's saying something.
I can make a world-famous beauty.
He's saying something in that track. Ties in nicely with our conversation with Johannes LaCour, who is a pretty amazing dude. He is a Pulitzer Prize-winning podcaster. That's high cotton to be a Pulitzer Prize winner. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning podcaster and is doing some pretty amazing work using media to tell our stories and to seek justice for others. He is doing that in part because of his own life's journey. Spent a decade or so in prison, was sentenced to 10 years in prison. And he's been telling us, is in fact telling us, rather transparently, which I appreciate, his own story. And we're going to obviously work our way to the good part as we move forward in this conversation. But you were saying a couple of things, Johannes, I want to come back to right quick, just watching my time here. The first thing was you talked about how you crossed your own line when you said that you would never sell anything that you would not consume. Just take me back right quick and tell me more about what you recall and the decision to cross that line.
I would say that I became, to whatever degree we become victims of capitalism. I became one. I would say that my desire, my thirst for increased financial freedom, for more money, kind of prompted me, allowed me, made a way for me to cross that line I had created for myself, and just kind of chalk it up as just business.
Yeah.
It was pretty much that simple. It was pretty much, I was presented with opportunities to make money like I hadn't seen before that would put me in position to do things that I'd wanted to do and didn't know how I'd get to do. And I took that opportunity.
Yep. Is it a matter of rationalizing it some way, and if so, tell me how, or is it a matter of just ignoring it altogether, and that is this notion of the harm, the damage, the destruction, maybe even the death that happens at the hands of one who engages in this kind of activity? So do you find a way to rationalize what you're doing, or you just don't think about it, or you just ignore it, you just don't want to process the damage that it's causing, the harm that it's causing?
Yeah, sure. No, that's a great question, brother. And obviously that question is answered differently for different people in the situation. I'll speak to like a general kind of something I've witnessed generally in people I've known and myself at different points. I think that the dangers of drugs and the horrible effects of drugs on the community, on black communities in particular, are unfairly put at the feet of disproportionately put at the feet of the young black men generally who are supplying the drugs.
Okay.
The fact is that most young drug dealing black men are in many ways just as much a victim of the same system that drug users are. We don't the notion that you punish a young man for selling drugs because a drug user will go hit somebody over the head and take their purse for the money to buy it is actually ridiculous, because people have been killing people over things for a long time, and the creators of those things have not been held accountable. You know, I was a youngster, and in Chicago, people were getting killed for Nikes and Jordans, and Nike nor Michael Jordan was ever held accountable for those crimes. People, you know, so the simple, so that's one thing, and I think that yes, there is a rationalizing that takes place. We are all complicit in some degree to our fellow man's downfall. We all know how horrible of a capitalist structure Amazon and Walmart and these huge companies who pay people so, you know, way less than a minimum wage and exploit poverty and exploit the need of the average American. We're aware of that, and we still, many of us, most of us obviously, still buy things off of Amazon or from big box stores and do not, you know, and pass up our own business for other business every day, knowing the effects of it. Now, obviously, that's a much different effect than drugs has on a person. But I think that once, you know, you realize that, I think that once young men, once we realized that we were in a system, a capitalist system, and that's how it worked, we actually took on, we became capitalists, as we all are. And so I think there's a degree to which there's a kind of unfair blaming of, you know, drug use and the horrors that it can lead to on the men in the same community who are doing it. And at the same time, I would say from my personal experience, you know, I'll never forget, after having been indicted and realizing that I'm facing like 10 to life, and it was a sobering moment. And I can remember being on a bus headed to a court hearing, and I can remember seeing drug addicts nodding on the corners, and I thought very deeply about the fact that my fingerprints were on that, and I felt horrible. However, I will also say that, again, to, you know, make the Amazon analogy, you know, when I choose to save $1 or try to, you know, go the more convenient route, and I you know, but I think about everything that, you know, these huge corporations stand for. When I pass up a black-owned restaurant, a community-owned restaurant, to go to a conglomerate because it's easier, faster, convenient, or because of my personal taste, you know, I feel a pang of guilt too. So I think it's easy to rationalize once you realize we're in a very capitalist system, man. And lastly, I just quickly say that, you know, there are times I even said in my podcast that I was confronted by an amazing woman, Perry Small, a journalist here in Chicago, who we talked about the story and talked about my own story. And once I told her that I'd been in prison for drugs, she said, "Oh, you sold out." And I had to deal with that. And ultimately, I agreed with her that I sold out, not simply because I was a black man who sold drugs that wound up getting to black people, but because I personally knew better. I'd read Native Son, you know, before I was a teenager. I was raised by folks and, you know, by Panthers and activists, and, you know, I knew all about black art and literature, and so I personally I personally violated some personal codes that I can't say most black men in big black cities selling hard drugs cross the same way.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, I appreciate your candor. I deeply do. Thankfully, the story doesn't end there. You did get indicted, you did get sentenced, and you went in. And somewhere on the inside, you had some time to think and to process. As I said earlier, you began to change your life in prison, and We'll talk about that part now and all that you've done since then. We're talking to Johannes LaCour. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning podcaster, so clearly this story gets better. So take me inside the prison and start to give me some sense of when you start to, as the prodigal son story would underscore for us, come to yourself.
Prison was a hell of an experience, brother. And I think that because I'd been a writer before I went to prison, because I'd been creative, because I'd been an entrepreneur in other lanes, because I had the background I had, I realized that I owed more, right? What was it? To whom much is given, much is required.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
I realized that, I've been blessed with skills and access and opportunities that a lot of our brothers behind those walls, unfortunately, weren't. And therefore, I owed myself and all of us, it wasn't long. It didn't take me, a lot of time in prison to realize that. To be honest with you, I realized it very quickly. It was a huge wake-up call. And so I was dedicated and determined and vowed to myself that, I'd never risk my freedom again. And it was more, and again, I will say, it wasn't, no, I don't want my fingerprints, my hands on the effects that drugs has on our community. But, for me, more than that, it was about leaving my daughter and disappointing my parents and not being able to live up, to my own personal promise. Because I do not, as just a matter of routine, knock black folks who are struggling for certain compromises, because I understand it, and I think we all compromise, and I don't think any of us can sit in this, on some sort of pedestal and decide who's wrong based on what compromises they have or haven't made compared to someone else.
I couldn't agree more. We are all compromised and contaminated. Let's just call it what it is. We're all compromised and contaminated in certain ways, and we all have choices and decisions to make. So in that regard, I think you're right. But again, the story gets better because Johannes LaCour is a Pulitzer Prize-winning podcaster, and that's not easy to do. So we'll talk about that part of the story and all the work he's doing to use media to seek justice indeed for others. We'll do that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. The departure of Congressman Garrett Graves of Baton Rouge, Louisiana from Capitol Hill will affect two major House committees. The Republican isn't running for re-election this fall ever since his district was redrawn by state legislators who were required to create a second majority black district. The new district favors Democratic candidates. Graves serves on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee and the Natural Resources Committee. Neither committee has many members from Gulf Coast states, so Louisiana's interests may suffer. A Chicago City Council member plans to use an unusual method to bring drawing attention to increasing crime in the Inglewood neighborhood. 17th Ward Alderman David Moore, who is black, says he will sleep outdoors in a tent until the crime problem in his ward is fixed. The Southside Alderman says his goal is to shut down an open-air drug market that has kept his constituents inside their homes. Just yesterday morning, 7 people were wounded by 2 shooters who opened fire in the neighborhood. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Have a great rest of your night. Over in West LA, watch for stop delays from Centinela Avenue as an accident's on the right shoulder at the 10 East before the 405. An injury accident's been reported on the right shoulder transition to the 60 west of Diamond Bar's 57 North, and heavy traffic continues from Brea Canyon Road. Stall has been cleared from the 710 South in Bell Gardens just before Lawrence Avenue, with a 30-minute backup in recovery from the 60 Pomona Freeway. And in Westminster on the 405 South at Howard Hughes Parkway, 2 right lanes as well as the off-ramp are blocked with a rollover crash, causing stop traffic from Wilshire Boulevard over 40 minutes.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. So if you drive safely, you could save money. Good to know. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Today's generation of baseball players and fans didn't have the opportunity to see Willie Mays play in person. He retired in 1973. All they have are video highlights of his spectacular 24-year career. It doesn't change the fact that Willie Mays is the greatest player in Major League Baseball history. Willie Mays, known as the Say Hey Kid, passed away Tuesday night. The baseball icon was 93. Mays played with a combination of power, speed, and defense that may never be matched. Mays was a 24-time All-Star, a 12-time Gold Glove winner as a center fielder, and was voted National League MVP twice with the San Francisco Giants. In the 8th inning of Game 1 in the 1954 World Series, running toward the center field wall with his back to the infield, Mays made the most famous catch in baseball history when he tracked down a deep drive off the bat of Cleveland's Vic Wertz. Look it up on YouTube. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
We're not just a thermometer recording and broadcasting popular opinion. We aim to be a thermostat, transforming the conversation about climate justice in our community. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk 1580.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys. Let's take our auntie to the swap meet. Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8% must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Hey! You got to pay back. Revenge. I'm mad. Got to get back. I need some get back. Pay back. Pay back. That is. Pay back. Revenge. I'm mad. To get down with my girlfriend.
Tavis Smiley here, continuing our conversation with Johannes LaCour, this brilliant Chicago brother who turned his life around after prison. He's done some pretty amazing work. He's using media to seek justice for others, and has won a Pulitzer Prize for his podcast, which we'll talk about here in just a second. So I am delighted to have Johannes LaCour as our guest in this hour. So Johannes, give me a sense of what happens when you're inside and you're moving toward being released. I'm just trying to get a sense of how your mind is working as you're about to exit this place, given the conviction that you have now served, the time you've now served.
Yeah, so when I went to jail, my uncle, who's an amazing man, who was like a second father to me for a long time growing up, C. Vernon Mason. He was a civil rights activist and lawyer in Harlem.
I knew him well.
Yeah, that's my uncle.
Yeah.
Much respect and shout outs to him.
Yeah.
He told me when I went in, do the time and don't let the time do you. And so what I did was I tried to just concentrate on making myself a better me. So I did a lot of writing, I did a lot of studying, I did a lot of reading, and I just tried to. I realized, and I told a lot of the guys in there, like, look, y'all, we ain't never gonna have this much free time again in our lives. As much as we want to get back to the world, the real world, and we look at that almost as paradise. We was there long enough to know it ain't paradise. It moves a mile a minute, and so you gotta hit the ground with your feet running when you get there. So let's use this time to make that to make the most of that, to get on our best foot when we hit the ground. So I picked up in addition to writing and reading and studying, I picked up leather craft while I was in the joint. They had a hobby craft program at the facility I was at. Now I want to preface this with, this hobby craft program was not something that was designed for us to better ourselves. It was designed to give us something to do, and I was thankful for that. However, it was a racket for the prison. I picked up leather craft. That was a hobby craft slot that I jumped in, and so I learned how to create leather goods, bags, accessories, belts, artwork, the whole nine. But it was the type of thing where inmates taught each other. And just by chance, there was no order to it like that. The prison made like a 30% profit on anything we ordered, and there was no one, there to officially teach you how to do it. You just had to figure it out and work with other people who knew what they were doing, and hope you could get a lesson in. But I spent at least 7 years of my time mastering that craft. To the point that, so when it was time for me to go home, I knew that I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So I knew I wanted to eventually work for myself. I understood that I had to work for other folks to get to a point where I could work for myself. But that was my goal. And I knew that if I was going to do that, it was most likely going to come through writing, because that's where I had experience and talent, and leather work, because that's where I had developed talent and experience. And I'll never forget, just to the point of this not being the type of thing that the prison supported for our betterment, I had what they called a counselor in prison. And so, when you're down to your last couple of years, they're supposed to be helping you with your reentry program. And so I was trying to get a couple more months of what they call halfway house time. You leave prison, you go to a halfway house, and then you're released to home, or home confinement, and then you're finally released from that, and you're a free man. And so I was trying to get a few more, as many months as I could in the halfway house. And my counselor was like, nah, you haven't done anything with your time. And I'm thinking, like, this is incredible, because I've been one of the most focused men I've known during my time. And he said, well, what are you counting? Leather work? What is that? What are you going to do with leather? And I'm like, man, you, and this man said this. Yeah, this man said this while wearing a leather jacket and sitting in a leather chair.
Well, I'm laughing because I know where this story is going. When you go ahead and finish. I don't want to jump in front of you, but I'm laughing because I saw the piece in Smithsonian Magazine. I'll just say that. I saw the piece in Smithsonian Magazine, even as this counselor is telling you, what are you going to do with leather? So go and finish the story, Johannes.
Yeah. So that's what he tells me. And so at that point, I'm like, you know what? All right, I'll take what you give me. And so, I spent that time focused on sharpening skills that I could use to earn myself a living, doing things I enjoyed upon my release. I also spent that time trying to cleanse myself, if you will, of my love for the streets, man. I'll be honest, man. You don't spend 10, 20 years hustling, getting street money, which is faster money, and living that life, especially that it's kind of glorified and promoted. This is American culture too, right? This ain't just black culture. This is American culture. The fast life, fast money, women, cars. I mean, this is American culture, and we all fantasize that there's an allure to it, and so just imagine what it's like for people who actually live it, right? It's a rush. So I had spent that time also telling myself, all right, there's certain music I'm not listening to no more because I know what it does to me. I know what it triggers. I know what memories it brings back. There's something in myself I need to quiet. So while I'm building myself up, I'm also tearing my old self down, and that's what I did with my time in my as I was determined to come back to a different life and reinvent myself.
So I was laughing a few moments ago, and I'll tell you why I was laughing. I was laughing because I recently saw a major spread about Johannes in Smithsonian Magazine. He currently runs the luxury leather label YJ Liqueur. So this counselor is laughing at him in prison saying, you ain't done that much your time. Leather? I'm thinking of Allen Iverson now. Practice? We talking about practice?
Right.
Practice? So his counselor saying to him, leather? That's what you working on, leather? And now this brother has his own luxury leather label called YJ Liqueur. And I saw a beautiful piece about it in Smithsonian Magazine. So so much for that counselor who thought that he had not spent his time well and that nothing good would come from it. More of our story with Johannes Liqueur, this Pulitzer Prize-winning podcaster, when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080. We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA delegation, have you been chasing those 20 pounds for 20 years? Then it's time for D-Herb's Full Body Cleanse, a natural cleansing regimen that can help you lose 20 pounds in 20 days. The Full Body Cleanse will also boost your immune system and improve your digestion. Stop chasing that 20-pound weight loss and propel yourself into a healthier lifestyle. To reboot your system, lose weight, and experience healing, go to dherbs.com and order your Full Body Cleanse or call 866-434-3727. Mention KBLA 1580 and get 10% off your order.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys. Let's take our auntie to the swap meet. Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8% must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
Grid Alternatives is a nonprofit organization in Los Angeles. We offer paid job training. In 13 weeks, you can be a solar installer. Solar is a high-growth industry. 80% of our graduates get hired in the industry. We serve communities who have been left out of the renewable energy sector. Call today, 626-600-1852. Again, 626-600-1852. Don't be left out any longer.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
More of Johannes LaCour on Tavis Smiley right now. Watching my times get away from me, almost pushing up to the top of the hour. So a few things I want to cover here. So Johannes, let me ask you right quick here. So how does it feel for you, given the story you told earlier about this counselor on your way out of prison, laughing at you for being in leather works, and you fast forward a few years and you're featured in Smithsonian Magazine for your luxury leather label. How do you process that?
You know, I'm so first of all, I'm just grateful. I'm extremely grateful, man. I thank God like every day, man. Because that, you know, I put it all on Him. But it feels good, man. It feels rewarding. It feels like I got my lick back, if you will. It feels like you know, I proved a heavy naysayer wrong. Yeah. I think that it's just an example of how you know, how to turn lemons to lemonade, man. And I'm mostly also, you know, I'm also thankful to be able to be an example and an inspiration for the brothers and sisters behind those walls, you know, for whom it's those are dark times, man. And so it feels it's really reward. It is reward.
Tell me about the podcast. I mentioned a few times now that you are a Pulitzer Prize winning podcaster. As I said, these Pulitzers don't come easy, so it's a big deal to have one of those. Tell me about the podcast.
So, okay, I'm gonna try to, you know, I know we don't have a lot of time. Back in '97, yeah. So back in '97, you know, when I was still just selling weed, and long before I was gone to prison, there was a little boy, man. He was 13 years old. His name was Lennar Clark.
Oh yeah.
And he was from the projects here in Chicago. The projects called Stateway Gardens. Mm-hmm. He went across the Dan Ryan Expressway, which separated projects from a neighborhood called Bridgeport. Bridgeport was a notoriously racist, sundown town of a neighborhood in Chicago from which our mayors, most of our police officers, and city government officials were born and raised and came from. And that was a neighborhood that black people knew not to go, especially after dark, if at all. And that little boy, unfortunately, tragically, learned that lesson that day. He was beat within inches of his life at the age of 13 by a gang of much older young Italian Bridgeport residents with mob connections. That story enraged me. So, me and my buddies went over there trying to actually exact physical revenge. It didn't happen. It didn't work. We actually got chased out of there because I don't know what we were thinking. 6 or 7 brothers trying to go, again, get a lick back in an all-white racist neighborhood like that. We was emotional. But we got out of there, and I had always been a writer. My father told me, write about it. I wound up investigating that story. I discovered a lot, but I was very disappointed with my journalistic experience back then, trying to write about that story for this very small newspaper out of the projects. I come home from the joint. I wound up getting introduced to the Invisible Institute, which is a local newsroom journalism organization here in Chicago on the South Side, dedicated to human rights violations and particularly like police abuses of power. And and they had just come off of an amazing podcast called Somebody, and so we made a podcast about the story of Lenard Clark's attack and my own personal story of having investigated it all those years later.
Hold that thought. Our remaining moments with Lacour, Johannes Lacour, when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Have you heard of the 50-30-20 rule? This can help you spend and save your money wisely. So how does it work? Distribute your dollars into 3 buckets. 50% towards needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% goes to savings. Use this tool to help your journey to financial success. Sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
Did you know addiction to drugs like meth or cocaine is a disease and not a choice? But getting help is. If you have stimulant use disorder, you, your family, and friends may have a lot of questions, including where to start. Choose Change California can help. Make a change today and find a proven treatment option for you at choosechangeca.org.
Ew, gotta get rid of this old Backstreet Boys t-shirt.
Tell me why.
Because it stinks, boys.
Tell me why.
I've washed it so many times, but the odor won't come out.
Tell me why.
No, you tell me why I can't get rid of this odor.
Have you tried Downy Rinse and Refresh? It doesn't just cover up odors, it helps remove them.
Wow, it worked, guys.
Yeah.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in 1 wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
More of Tavis Smiley and Johannes Lacour coming your way right now. Just 3 minutes left in this conversation. Got 3 tight minutes here. So it's an amazing story, Johannes, that all these years later, you end up doing a podcast about your investigation of the Lenard Clark story, the murder.
No, I'm sorry. No. Thank God he survived.
Yeah.
He survived.
I'm sorry. That's right.
Yeah.
That's why he did survive. He survived that. That's right. He survived that beating. I'm thinking. Anyway, go ahead. He survived that. But the fact that all those years later you get a chance to tell that story, that's a full circle moment, is it not?
Oh yeah. When I think about the fact that that day in '97, I just was angry and wanted some justice for this little boy. And, for damn near 30 years later to come along and we win a Pulitzer Prize and a Peabody Award for telling that story, and now the world knows that story after I was so frustrated that I couldn't even get my community, get that information out to my community. Oh, yeah, full circle moment in a big way, man. And, huge.
Yeah. So did what did that podcast and all the accolades from it, the Peabody, the Pulitzer, what did that do to you in terms of being bitten by the bug, the podcast bug?
Oh, I'm in love with the process, man. Actually, my mentor had, actually had to remind me, like, you are a writer, right? And podcasting is one medium. I've written plays, I've written long-form journalism, so I kind of got to remember that I also want to write other stories in other forms. But no, I fell in love with the process. I had an amazing team, man, at the Invisible Institute. Probably I call them the coldest audio journalism team on the planet. And so we're already we're already in talks about our next story. When I'm at liberty to talk about what that is, I'd love to share that with you. Yeah. But I'm hooked, man. I am hooked.
Yeah. It's a space to do a lot of good work. And if you can do good work and bring attention to stories and to cases that have not been told or shared or wrestled with, then it's a beautiful thing. I just love the part of the story where you have found a way to not just turn your life around, but to pay it forward, and that's a big deal. That's a big deal, man. And I'm glad to see that you are doing what you're doing in the way that you are doing it. And I'm glad you brought that story of Leonard Clark full circle. I was thinking when I said murder, I was thinking about, sadly in Chicago, too many of these stories. You said Leonard Clark, and we were talking about Leonard, and my mind for some reason went to Laquan McDonald, who did not survive. But again, too many of these sad stories out of Chicago and beyond, for that matter. But I'm glad that Johannes LaCour got a chance to tell this story, and for the telling of it, he has won a Peabody and a Pulitzer, and we shall see what other stories he will tell in the months and years to come. Johannes LaCour, we celebrate you, man. We started by saying you went in, you turned your life around, and you're doing some amazing work, and I am honored to have had this chance to celebrate you on this program, especially on Juneteenth, speaking of freedom. Good to talk to you, man. All the best to you. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate you, man. Salute to you for everything you've done over all these years, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just like that, 3 hours gone. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until tomorrow, thanks for tuning in to Tavis Smiley. Happy Juneteenth. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thank you for sharing a part of your Juneteenth holiday with us here on the Black Information Network. I'm Mike Moore. Now, here's the latest. The shooter who killed 5 people and injured 19 more in a 2022 shooting at an LGBTQ club in Colorado Springs, Colorado, is receiving life without parole. Anderson Lee Aldridge pleaded guilty to 74 federal hate crimes and gun charges in connection with the shooting at the Club Q, receiving a sentence of life without parole plus 190 years.